welcome to this week's Friday Live. It's becoming a bit of a habit, which is good. I guess that was part of the point, and I give myself a pat on the back for that, because this hasn't been a productive week, so any successes I've had I want to make a note of. This week has been a lot less productive than last week as I sit and reflect, but you know what? That's okay, because I think sometimes, because we're capable of brilliance and we have those weeks where everything goes well, we kind of expect it all the time, and then we beat ourselves up when it doesn't happen. So it's okay to have an off week. And today I'm reflecting on what's been, I guess, a bit of a slow week, a lot more procrastination than normal. Today I'm in the office writing, so you'll have seen, if you've got the newsletter this week, you'll have seen that a third book has begun. Very early days, even I don't know yet what it's actually going to become, so I can't really tell you much about it, but as that evolves, obviously I will. If you didn't get the newsletter, then check your junk if you're signed up, or if you're not signed up, I'll pop the link on this live so that you can sign up for the newsletter. This week's newsletter talked a lot about procrastination and waiting for perfect conditions, because I find, especially when I'm writing, that's what I tend to do. I want a whole day stretched before me, preferably in a writing retreat in the Tuscan countryside looking over beautiful fields. And then when conditions are perfect, I feel like I can write a book. But of course, I've done two. This is the third. Sometimes you just have to snatch those moments of time when you get them, carve out that half an hour here, half an hour there in your day, the time that you've got on the flight, and just start. And that's what I've done this week. So that's exciting. But the other thing that stops us from starting and often keeps us in a space of procrastination can be fear. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I talk about this a lot. It comes up in the workshops that I do, particularly around imposter syndrome, where we have this fear of being exposed as a fraud. But so often when we talk about goal setting and reaching our potential, we look at what stops us, we look at the barriers, and fear is a massive one. You know, that tendency to want to stay where we are in our comfort zone, better the devil we know than the devil we don't. That can stop us. So I want to talk about fear today, and how it manifests, but also our relationship to fear and failure, because that is one of the biggest things we fear. I mean, when you look at all the things that keeps us rooted to the spot, that keeps us in our comfort zone, often it is about fear of what people will think of us, fear of leaving what we know, what we are familiar with and comfortable with, fear of the unknown, what we don't yet know, and fear of often failing as well. This can be such a massive fear, our fear of failure. And it's interesting, because we were clearing out our garage last week, and I found, this is my first royalty check. So my first royalty check for my first book, and I often use this example in my workshops, was worth less than $5. It's from the US, so it's actually going to cost me more to cash it than it's actually worth. And that's why it kind of just stayed in the garage, I think, and it's kind of become this souvenir of failure, of fear. So a lot of the time, the reason we fear getting out of our comfort zone is because we don't want to fail. We have been taught to avoid failure at all costs. And hey, I used to think that if I avoided failure, I'd be successful by default. But failure comes. Because we're human, we make mistakes. And if we are getting out of our comfort zone enough, taking risks, trying things, developing, growing, the chances are we're going to hit some failure along the way. But rather than this being a sign to stop, it's a lesson, it's an opportunity, and that's how our relationship with failure shifts. So when I think about this royalty check, this potentially was a sign for me, my first book has been a flop. I shouldn't be a writer, I shouldn't be an author, I should stop. However, this, it taught me so much. It taught me so much about where I'd gone wrong, and that in turn taught me how to get it right. And obviously the second book, fortunately, has gone a lot better as a result of those lessons that I've learned. And similarly, when I was starting my own business, there was so much that I feared. I feared getting it wrong, making the wrong choice. I feared what people will think of me not having a successful corporate job anymore and being out on my own. And I feared, what if I fail? What if, losing all this security of my familiar business, the career I've trained for 15 years, the security of a paycheck every month. What if I end up homeless, jobless, penniless? And incidentally, 4 or 5 years ago, that did happen. And it was all part of this journey for me becoming where I'm at now. I would put on events, no one would show up, and they were free. And now I put on events and they sell out and they're not free. So it's all about how our relationship with failure keeps us bouncing back, keeps us learning those lessons and getting better each time. So it's more a stepping stone to success and a way of improving what we're doing, rather than a sign that we're actually a failure and that we shouldn't try anymore. And that's what can stop us. If we feel that we've hit a wall, we've failed, if this is a sign of you shouldn't be an author, you've failed, there would be no second book or third book. But it's taught me so many lessons, and I think that's the message here with failure. It can be a stepping stone to success. When we look at those that we aspire to be, it's not that they've got it right and we've got it wrong. It's not that they've got the secret and we just don't know the formula. Often when you sit down and talk to these people, read blogs and interviews with these people, you find out that they've made the failures, they've had their mistakes, they've bounced back, they've learned from them. And it's because of that they're able to be who they are now. So that's worth remembering when we come to talk about fear and talk about failure. So what else is happening this week? So we've got an event on Wednesday night, career development, salary negotiations. It's in Wellington, in the CBD, at the Thistle Inn. There's actually a competition that's running right now for 2 free tickets. So if you want to go to that event and you've not got tickets already, you might be able to win some. I'll put the link in this live so that you're able to have a look at how to enter. But come along, we've got about 8 tickets left, I think, for that event. There'll be wine, there'll be food, there'll be all the nice stuff, as well as really learning some valuable lessons. If you're applying for a new job, if you're going for a promotion, if you're thinking about a career change, then this sort of stuff is gold. It's valuable. It's not just about the confidence aspect and putting yourself in the right space to do that, but it's also looking at 15 years I did spend in HR, some of those inside secrets and the lessons from the other side of the table as to what we can know that gives us the leading edge when we go into situations like that. So I'm going to leave you to the rest of your Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch up again next week.